Hi, welcome back for another Charlie party sans Charlie.
There's 15 chapters in this book overall, and we're on chapter 5, so this is our third waypoint
Wow,
already.
thank
Congrats!
God.
The 200 of you that are watching this with us.
The first
maybe
third
we're wrong.
is the hardest. Hopefully not the deepest, or we're fucked.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it. Here we go. That's a nose. I'm sorry. That was my Quaker moment. Can we cut this out?
They deserve to see you for what you are. Chapter 5. Time passes. So true. So true. Whatever else you can say about life, at least you're guaranteed that. Some see time marching grandly onward like a military parade. Others view it as flowing, a river emptying into an endless sea.
I love him tackling a topic that's never been addressed before. This is great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Redefining literature.
And a really comprehensive overview of different philosophical positions about time in that.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, time halts and limps and then lurches forward, like a wounded sailor in a foreign port trying to make it to his ship before it sails at dawn.
Oh my god, Sam is a soft boy. This sucks. For angsty me who the world does not understand.
Sailor. 6 months had passed since my wife's death. The original white-hot ache had decayed to a bleakness of routine and duty and responsibility.
Okay, no, in Jack's defense, it is nice to see him trying.
Who?
Jack Wayland.
Yeah, I think he's been trying this whole book.
I think
he's never not been trying. Certain dialogue in the first book especially, he did skimp on us with. The turning point occurred in March when the bishop called me to one of the single adult representatives in the ward. Sorry, called me to be one. We met once a month with our ward committee and also once a month with the state committee. At my first state committee meeting, I met John Stevens. We were both about the same age. He had never married. He told me he was building a boat from a kit and said if I'd help him with it, he would let me use it anytime I wanted.
A boat?
Besties?
You think I want to build a boat with you?
A fucking fly
I'm
guy.
a planes guy. I fly like a bird. I don't need your fucking boats.
Once a week after that, I bundled Adam up and we went to John's garage and worked.
Am I being too much right
No, you're not being enough. He was sort of a cross between the Marlboro man, with no cigarettes, and a young Archie Bunker. Do you have any insight into who Archie Bunker is? Because I don't.
He sounds very
I
old.
also don't know what the Marlboro man looks like, because we banned cigarette ads a lot sooner than you guys.
Nice. You didn't get to appreciate the icon of Western masculinity. That is the Marlboro man. He's
Incredible.
like, I just got back from riding my powerful steed into town, rescued a damsel in distress, about to drive my Corvette through the mountains with my dog, all the while
so
smoking a Marlboro cigarette. And it's like, Marlboro cigarettes are good for you and your manhood. Without his cigarettes, who even is the Marlboro man?
Exactly.
He's just Keith.
He's just some Keith on a horse. Sometime after he turned 18, he must have sat down and taken a stand on every possible political issue. We spent hours arguing politics. Oh my God, please be a liberal. Please give us a debate. We spent hours arguing politics as we fitted and glued and sanded and painted. Oh, I need more details. If he's, we know Sam's a Republican, right? We know that.
Mm-hmm. Should homosexuals be killed according to biblical standards or just imprisoned? You don't get it.
Is allowing people to get welfare slavery? That's a take I saw today on Republican TikTok.
Some galaxy brain shit.
Another source of interest in my life came from home teaching. 2 weeks after going with Brother Porter, I was assigned his route. I thought he was already on his route. My home teaching companion was a senior in high school who was involved in sports. I was happy for his success, but sometimes found it difficult to arrange a time to go out with him home teaching. Sometimes I took John with me, even though we weren't in the same ward. One day after church, Shirley told me she had joined a computer pen pal club and had been writing a man who lived in Pennsylvania. She had told him about the church and he was taking the missionary lessons. Wow, that is amazing. Ooh. I bet he's cool. 3 weeks later, she told me he had been baptized. And then a few days after that, she asked me to come over that night because she had something important to talk to me about. Since my regular home teaching companion was out of town, I asked John to go with me. When we arrived, she told us her pen pal wanted to meet her and maybe even marry her and that he was coming in 5 weeks. That's wonderful, I said. She burst into tears. I asked her what was wrong. She said, oh no. This, she said, handing me a picture of her taken 40 pounds earlier. I sent him this. He thinks I look like that. This is where Sam apparently is well equipped to navigate someone wanting to lose weight with him.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, why are we returning to weight, Jack? Why? Do you have any experience with the issue?
Maybe he's got a progressive trick up his sleeve. You know, last time he surprised us with the extremely progressive take that you can still marry people who have had sex if they feel really, really, really bad about it.
And he showed that he was a good person by being worried about a woman being fat. So, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Uh-oh.
Oh well, I stammered. Looks aren't everything. Nobody can top your bright, happy smile. I'd still have the same smile if I were thin, she cried. Good grief, lady, John barked, unable to cope with crying women. If you don't like being fat, go on a diet. John must you? He's like, good grief, woman.
A woman crying in my presence?
So
he sounds really like emotionally stable and awesome.
Yeah, he sounds like a great home teacher.
Really good priesthood holder, full of the love of God. So good.
So this is her. I can't. It won't work. I've tried it before. We'll help you this time, I said. Won't we, John? Yes, I'm sure that Sam and John are well equipped to tackle the complex phenomenon of weight loss that even experts in 2021, there's still a lot up in the air about what's effective. Diets don't work. We know that for a fact. None of the research supports the idea that diets work long term, except for like 5% of people.
These himbos are gonna be like, we need to roll her up in a wrestling mat and leave her, let her sit for 20 hours. After, you know, they're
How
shit.
How are these men equipped to help, what's her name? Shirley? To help Shirley lose 40 pounds.
Surely you
Literal
must be
doctors
joking.
Are not equipped. Hey, you help her. I'm not her home teacher. That's John.
Oh, God.
John, won't you help her any? Oh, all right, he barked, turning to Shirley.
Why is he bringing belligerent John into people's lives?
Why is the fat phobia carrying over into 2 chapters? I cannot stomach this. He barked, turning to Shirley. Look, if you don't want to be fat, then don't eat so much. Quit stuffing your face. Then he turned back to me. There, I helped. What he means, I said, trying to smooth things over, is that if you carefully plan what you eat, you're sure to lose weight. Okay. Why is Jack, like, clearly weight was in the last chapter, and this is a separate character.
Is it? Or is it the same person he's home teaching?
Oh, I'm an idiot.
We are developing a relationship with his home teachees.
Okay.
Imagine
Still, though,
speaking
it's clearly
like
an
that
issue on
to someone's face in their own house, coming, presuming to share with them the message of the gospel, so that you can check off the box saying
and then when
that
she's upset, you say, "Good grief,
are
woman."
this great person who's fulfilling your duties, and you're gonna speak to them like that,
barking at her.
Absolutely mad.
And I love how Sam's the good guy for helping her lose weight. Like, this is, again, perpetuating this stereotype that, like, thin people know what to do. I mean, I assume Sam is, like, thin. It's like, they know what to do. But, like, a fat person, they just don't know. I don't know. Just, like, him being, like, it's just a weird savior complex. It's like, there's nothing you can do here, Sam.
It's so weird that, like, Jack is trying to do this, I don't know, good cop, bad cop is the wrong metaphor, but they are both cop. Like, they both suck so bad.
They both suck so bad.
It's like, oh, see, he's not as bad as this guy, who is obviously a raging misogynist.
Benevolent misogyny. Yeah. And, like, more overt one. Pick your poison.
Like, let me put that in girl talk for you. All that thing he just said is that you're fat and you gotta change. It's like...
And this is probably going to be a brand new tip to you, but have you tried just eating less? Okay, so anyway, Sam is now, you know, nice guy stepping in. What he means, I said, trying to smooth things over, is that if you carefully plan what you eat, you're sure to lose weight. And get off your duff and get a little exercise too, John added.
Fuck off, John.
I hate this so much.
Right out of the house.
So much.
You can leave. You are not being helpful.
I'm not going to go into it too much. There's so much I want to say to woman men who have this mindset. but whatever. Perhaps, I translated, a little exercise would be helpful too. I think that's what John is trying to say, isn't it, John? I got no respect for somebody who gorges food, John muttered. Okay. John.
Are we touching a personal chord here? What's such a strong reaction?
Yeah.
It feels like he's about to break into tears, and I can't handle being in the presence of male tears.
John has so thoroughly absorbed the idea that someone who gorges on food is morally inferior that, like...
Oh, religion...
It's like, how does this affect you in any way, John?
Religion, it does bring out the worst in people, but it's not, like, totally responsible. It's like a good cover for everything that's wrong with people. It just gives everyone a blanket to act out their worst ways and feel morally superior.
But I think it's like religion sort of a lot of the time will hold people back. I mean, like fat phobia was in the 80s anyway, but it's like religion almost, it moves at a slower pace in terms of social progress.
Are we still in the 80s at this point?
Yeah, we are. Also, we got to speed up because we're only on the second page of 10 and we've
got a live stream coming, baby.
Fred plans on coming from Pennsylvania in a month, she said. Can I look like I did in this picture by then? Shirley, no. You don't want to lose 40 pounds in a month, realistically. John grabbed the picture and compared it with Shirley. You've really let yourself go, haven't you? I wouldn't be caught dead looking the way you do. Okay, literally, he's just internalized the idea that thin people are superior. That's it. Your arms, look at that flab. They make me sick. Your home teacher! What is happening?
This is so
What
disturbing.
the fuck is happening? It's like Jack only knows how to write these really overtly crazy villains. Not even crazy, just mean, you know? Like, he only knows how to be... This is his idea of the bad guy and Sam is the good guy, when actually it's like... The fact that you think Sam is the bad guy shows that, like, you are both the bad guys. I hate to say it. I know you're trying your best.
No, it's true. Here's the acceptable line of discourse. We hopefully want to be, around here.
So Sam's, like, here. The other guy's here.
Like, way.
Yeah. She cried for a while and then stopped and smiled. Where did you find him? In an old Gestapo movie? Oh, my God. This is this is a Mormon wet dream. Mormon male fantasy. But you know what? I like him. I think he's just what I need now.
No!
Let me tell you. This is my theory.
He brought Jillian Michaels.
Don't get me started. This is my theory. Okay, so a lot of Mormon men are fat phobic. But at the same time, the average American woman, I think even in the 80s, like a high percentage of the population was like considered overweight or obese. So I bet it's like a thing for a lot of Mormon men because there's these really like held up beauty standards in Mormonism where I mean, I know nothing about Jack's wife, so maybe this is presumptuous, but like maybe in Jack's mind, what he wishes is that men were just allowed to talk to women like this, and because he believes that it would help. But he's the fact that I'm not, he knows he's like, can't really get away with talking to women like that. Generally, but in his mind he believes that it could work because that's what Jack's writing, isn't it? It's like this was the tough love that the character needed. This idea is like fat phobia is like built on this idea that like if we're not mean to people who are fat, then how will they be motivated to change? Or like then we're like saying that we accept it, which is like heaven forbid you accept people. Anyway, it's just right here. It's all here. But it's like, of course this is like a shitty approach, but like it's being written as like effective. I swear to God, if she loses 40 pounds.
Feelings are not a good source of identifying truth, but I feel deeply in the squirmature of my spine that is true, that what you said is correct.
Fat people know that people feel these negative feelings about them. They receive negative messages about themselves constantly. Like they go through life seeing that. So like this absurd idea that a fat person just hasn't been like bullied enough.
Yeah.
And like the bullying when it's actually like
you just haven't absorbed all the bullying. I need to say it to you louder and rougher.
Right. And not that like this is even like the only reason someone would be fat, 'cause obviously there's a million, like it's such a complex thing.
Yeah, it's not just about
it's
what
so
you're putting
giant,
in.
it's so many different things. But like even if the person was like gorging on food, as you put it, well, they're probably doing that because like it's like a drug of choice, just like how I drink too much wine, or like everyone has their ways that they get dopamine when their nervous system is dysregulated.
Being an absolute dick to strangers being some people's.
Truly. So let's just say like food is like their thing that is a comfort for them, like gives them dopamine that then, you know, when they're low in dopamine elsewhere in their lives, then being mean to them is not going to help that. That's going to make the problem worse because they're going to feel even worse about themselves. So then they're going to want to turn to that thing more. So even in like your tiny little myopic view of like what would make someone fat, it's a bad strategy. Anyway, we got to move on.
Hate this.
You guys should listen to the Maintenance Phase podcast. We wrote down some rules for eating and then talked about exercise at the Deseret gym. John, will you work out with us too? I'll work out with you, he grumbled, but don't expect any leniency. When I work out, I work out. None of those namby-pamby excuses. I'll run you both into the ground. Okay, John. A few days later, I got John onto a racquetball court. I didn't try for the immediate point, but instead ran him after the ball from front to the back court while I stayed in the middle and watched him sweat. That is a satisfying image, even though it's Sam, so like, but we gotta take what we can get.
I love that this does hold up, that the worst person we've ever been introduced to, Sam, would have a friend who just sucks even worse than him.
Because Sam needs to feel slightly superior to the people he's closest to. That's why he picked Charlie, right? Because he could feel...
Yes.
Even though she was obviously... By the end of the second game, his sweatshirt was dripping wet and he was uncharacteristically quiet. Thanks for the game, John, I said, smiling. How about another one? He was too busy breathing to answer me. Shirley was my next opponent. When she entered the court, I had to force back laughter. She was wearing layer after layer of grey sweatshirts and pants, and she looked like a dreary version of the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Jesus.
But she was a game girl and never gave up. Why would she be wearing multiple layers of sweatshirts and pants? How many pairs of pants can one person wear?
Presumably because she's embarrassed.
So you just wear more... No one's wearing 3 pairs of pants.
I don't know. It's just fucking
After
Jack.
racquetball, we exercised, working on our individual tummies. And then after that, there was swimming.
Working on our individual tummies.
And then, so they're doing abs, I guess. Which, by the way, the abs are a relatively small muscle. It's kind of if you're trying to lose weight, it's kind of a waste of time to focus on the abs, but I'm just saying.
I find it helps to do ab work with other people.
Yeah, I do too. But maybe that would be too sensual.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're in our individual tummies.
Yeah.
And then supper. 2 fillets of fish and a tossed salad. Jack's giving nutrition advice in the book now too. 2 fillets of fish and a tossed salad. It was hard on her at first, and she phoned every night about 9:30 so I could talk her out of a bedtime snack. When she called, I calmly reasoned with her that the body can only store the food eaten at night because there is very little need for it during sleep. Okay, Jack, take a step back. Take a step back, okay?
Take a step back, Jack. Write a new book, fuck.
After a few days of my calm reasoning, she quit calling me and started to call John because he was more effective in helping her curb her appetite.
This sounds just like a wildly codependent
Why is this the most...
relationship between all 3 of them, this little gang.
This might be my least favourite chapter so far.
Yeah, same. Of probably all the books.
For those of you who don't know, I was bullied for being fat until I was 15, so I'm it is an issue very close to my heart. My entire identity was formed in the conditions of me being the fat girl. You think, is that too personal? Should I cut that out?
No, I think that's good.
You think I want a tub of lard for a friend? He'd say in his usual subtle, well-thought-out manner. Thanks, John. I needed that, she'd say, and hang up and go without food. Why is... Jack could write about anything in the world, and what he is horny for is the idea that men can just insult fat women into becoming thin. Why? Go...
If only I were allowed to say the things that I want to say, that would change people.
That's the message.
It's too politically correct.
That's exactly it. He's writing John as this villain so he can, but he's still praising the method in the text. So it's in the text. So yeah, he's literally just showing a side of himself in this character, John.
See, even the biggest assholes in the world could be an instrument in God's hands for changing people's lives for the better, for shaming them into improving themselves.
Time after time in this book, we just get horrific behavior from characters and then zero. And it's okay, so you're deliberately writing this to be bad, but then there's never any, it just is, and you're fine with it. And it even turns out well. Each time she got a letter from Fred in Pennsylvania, she would phone and read part of it to me. She was very excited about his visit and that she was losing weight. Finally, the week arrived for his visit. The day before, John and I bought her a new dress. We knew her dress size. In fact, we knew all her measurements because we'd plotted her progress. I wish this was a cute... I wish they were just, like, all getting fit together and it was, like, a gym montage and they're getting strong and she does her first push-up ever. Like, I wish it wasn't like this.
No, this is, like...
That's a cute image that they're, like, this little team helping... I don't know.
This feels like watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and, like, how they interact with Dee, except no self-awareness or, like, cynical satire behind it. It's just being like, this right.
Works. They're being great home teachers. I'd made up a little computer program that gave her a week-by-week printout of what she'd accomplished since the beginning of the diet. This is going to lead to a great relationship with food, I can tell.
Yeah.
Somehow, having it done by a computer made it more official to her. When we gave her the dress, she started to cry. Also, like, I feel like most women have pretty specific, specific knowledge about what you feel looks good on you and fits your taste. And these men are like, we knew what dress to get her.
We did.
Hey,
they don't even know how to dress themselves. He's probably wearing like a fucking tablecloth.
I know. Although, I mean,
Not that
Wine Mum Jared is making tablecloths iconic, so.
Oh, yeah.
When we gave her the dress, she started to cry. Hey, none of that, John growled, but I could tell he was just a little emotional himself. You two have been so good to me, she sniffled. They literally have not. They have just... It's been okay for me too, John admitted. I'm so excited about tomorrow. She bubbled a little later as she modelled the new dress. His bus gets in at 4:00 and then we're going out for supper. Skip the dessert, John warned. Can't even have dessert when your fiancé gets into town. The next evening, as I washed diapers and helped my mother around the house, trying to ease her burden of caring for Adam every day, I wondered how Shirley was doing. I didn't have to wonder very long because at 11:00 she phoned me and in tears asked me to come over. I phoned John and he grumbled a little, but then said he would pick me up in 5 minutes. John always picks you up. You never pick John up. He would never ride passenger. That's gay.
No, yeah. This is 11 p.m. They're just like on call. John just had to take time from his grumbling to go over there.
At first she just cried. Something went wrong tonight, I bet, I said. More tears. She had her head buried in a couch pillow. Let's see. Did he show up? Yo! Is that a yes? She nodded her head. So he showed up. Well, then let's see. He doesn't want to get married. Is that right? No. He does want to get married? Then what's wrong? Nano me, she sobbed in the pillow. Shirley, I can't understand you. What does nano me mean?
Do you need a pillow to make this real sounding?
Oh, God, please don't make me. Not to me, she called out, lifting her head up for a second and then burying it back into the pillow. She cried, and I thought, and John, who had to be at work at 5 the next morning, sat and yawned. Not to you, he wants to get married, but not to you. Who to then? After a few minutes, she sat up and talked. He got off the bus, shook hands with me, and introduced me to a tall blonde girl. She'd gotten on in Chicago and they'd talked, and her parents have quarter horses on a ranch, and he loves horses, and she invited him to stay with her folks in Heber.
Wait, sorry, what?
Then they collected their bags and left.
What the hell?
How deep was this relationship then?
Just on like a chance bus meeting, you're like, fuck it, I'm going with the horse girl. What?
He's just flown across the country for this girl. She took my convert. It's not fair. If things like that can happen on a bus, then Greyhound ought to warn people about it. I should have told him to fly.
They took my convert?
It's a weird way of describing your romantic interest.
This is so weird.
She started to cry, stopped, and said very deliberately, Sam, I want you to get me the bag of marshmallows in the kitchen.
Oh no, this whole thing was just a setup for... In a minute,
Jack. In a minute, I was back, and she put a marshmallow in her mouth. How can a blonde... I'm surprised he didn't snatch them and throw them away. How can a blonde get a tan in Chicago? And what's so neat about quarter horses anyway? In a minute, she had another marshmallow. They're going to get married, you know. That's what's going to happen. Do you know what I hope? I hope all his children are as blonde as their mother, and someday I hope they all go to the beach and fall asleep in the sun and get terrible sunburns. We do get terrible sunburns. She cried some more and continued eating. What's all this gotten me, she complained. Before I was a fat, miserable girl. Now I'm a skinny, miserable girl. I mean, that's touching on something real.
Yeah. It's about the interior
You don't
change.
become whole because you lose weight, Sam and John. A minute later, she said she wanted some hot chocolate to go with what was left of the marshmallows. We went into the kitchen to make it. Just before the water boiled, she turned to me
And will
said,
you put my liquid caffeine in it so it can go with the word of wisdom?
She said, "It's never going to happen to me, is it? I'm never going to get married in the temple and have a family." It could still happen, Shirley.
It could, maybe, Shirley.
Yeah, but you don't believe it will, do you? Miracles still happen. She shot a withering glance at me. Not that it would require a miracle, I backpedaled. We poured our cups of hot chocolate and sat down. John was snoring in the living room. She stared at the melting marshmallow in her cup and shook her head. "It's so hard, Sam, you know that? The marshmallow?" "No, being 28 and single." She's 28 and they're like, it could happen. Miracles happen. "It's a lot harder than being a teenager. Why do we worry so much about teenagers anyway? They grow up and become just like us." Ah, yes, that was a problem in the 80s, worrying too much about children.
In the 80s, they grew up to be punks.
"That's why we worry. We hope they won't be like us." "When you're 17 and nobody is taking you out," she continued, "you dream about a missionary who'll come back and marry you. Well, that's been my dream for 12 years, and tonight the bubble burst." He wasn't even a missionary. I finally realized it's never going to happen. I took a drink of hot chocolate and burned my tongue. I guess I should have realized it when I read that one of the boys from my high school class was called to be a mission president, and I'm still waiting for a missionary to come back.
A 28-year-old?
Yeah, that's weird. But tonight made it crystal clear. I guess I agreed with her. It might never happen in her life. Ooh, where is this
Jesus.
love
Sam.
This, she's fat, so she's never going to find love storyline.
Oh, Jesus.
"So what's left for me?" she asked. You're 28. Sitting in the back row of the chapel, hating the young mothers ahead of me with their noisy kids and Cheerios and diaper bags and husbands. It's not fair. I know, it's not fair. So what good is my well-protected virtue? I choked on my hot chocolate. What? If I can't have an eternity of love, how about one night of it? I stood up and suggested we go into the living room with John. "Not with you, Sam." "Oh," I said, relieved. "Unless you want to," she said. "Well, no, actually. You see, I've always valued my membership in the church, and I'd hate to get excommunicated. And besides that..." "Relax," she smiled. "Do you know where I went after Fred left me? I didn't want to go home, so I decided to go to a movie. And I
went to the whorehouse."
Is this going to end in an R-rated movie? "And I walked around from one theatre to another trying to decide, and even the posters embarrassed me. Finally, I found a Disney movie and went in and watched it, ate popcorn and cried. But those other posters got me thinking, maybe I've been missing something in my life." Oh yeah, movie posters are really driving the kids to sex before marriage. "You can't do that." "Why not? Every movie in this town is selling the virtues of not being virtuous."
Yeah,
Don't you
every
live
movie in this
Utah?
town.
In Provo in the 80s? Every movie in the town?
They only showed independent Mormon films in Provo in the 80s.
They probably did. It had turned to ashes.
Like, haven't you seen the RM?
What would turn to ashes? She said every movie in this town is selling the virtues of not being virtuous, and he said it had turned to ashes. Anyway, all I want is, instead of watching soaps, for once I want to be in one. Can that be so bad? It'd bring you unhappiness. How do you know? Alma said so.
A fake character in a book written by a con man in the 1800s says you would actually not have a good time. A man who... I can't go into Joseph Smith. Let's go.
Well, she said, who's he? Come on, Shirley, you know who he is. Is he from Shakespeare? He's from the Book of Mormon. And he talked about that? He said wickedness never was happiness.
Jesus, get your shit together.
Where's your
Shirley.
Book of Mormon? I don't know. It's around somewhere. Maybe in a box of books I've never unpacked. Have you... I don't like that they're also making this... It's like they've insinuated that her being fat is a sign of moral weakness. And now they're like, she's not good enough in this other area, which we consider like a pillar of virtue, which is reading your Book of Mormon every day. Like, she's just undisciplined and she doesn't do the right stuff and she doesn't know basic stuff. I hate it.
Can I share my fan theory?
Please.
I think that he's going to get her reading the Book of Mormon.
And then she's going
to learn to love herself.
A size 2.
And then get skinny out of love for herself.
And then she's going to get a boob job out of love for herself and Botox out of love for herself.
Get it, queen.
Get it. Slay. Have you ever read it? Not all of it, but I've read parts. You mean you go to church every week and you've never even read the Book of Mormon? No, but I believe it's true. What does that tell us? Scrud, that makes me mad, I roared, pounding my fist on her kitchen table. Unfortunately, the impact knocked over a vase sitting on the edge and it shattered. Okay, it's a weird, violent outburst just because someone said they haven't read your weird book. Gee,
that goes along so well with the weird book I'm writing about this.
Gee, I'm really sorry. I knelt down and began picking up the pieces. She started laughing. You cursed, Sam. You know that? What did he say? Scrud? Scrud.
Scrud.
Scrud. You
I'm
cursed
a slough.
and then
I'm sick of this scrud.
you cursed and then you broke my vase. I'm going to tell the bishop. Bishop, you've got to change my home teacher. He comes into my home at midnight, curses and breaks vases. Shirley, please read the Book of Mormon from
If
cover
you
to
knew
cover.
the half of it, you would call the police on him.
What difference will it make? I'll still have these secret yearnings. I dropped the pieces in her
I'll
wastebasket.
still have these secret yearnings.
I dropped the pieces in her wastebasket. Will you quit saying that? Why? It was on one of the movie posters. You're making me nervous. Well, she smiled. At least that's something. Look, I'll make a deal with you. John and I will come here every Friday night and we'll talk with you about what you've read during the week, and then we'll take you out for a salad bar supper. If you promise to read 10 pages a day. You and John will both take me out every weekend, she asked. Yes, but no flirting with disaster. Who's he? She teased. I'm not leaving till you promise. She grinned mischievously at me. Give me a couple of years to think about it. Come on, Shirley, this is serious. Okay, it's a deal. Now you'd better go before the neighbors start flattering me with gossip.
I'm sorry, are they 12 years old?
I am not sure. I find this whole chapter extremely bemusing. We returned to the living room and I kicked John in his cowboy boots. He got up and walked like a zombie to the car. She stopped me on my way out. Sam? Yeah? Let me hear you curse one more time, she smiled.
Ew, she likes a bad boy. She's got nefarious intentions.
Oh my god!
She wants Sam.
Wait, you don't think
She has.
she's
yearning.
she's gonna have what Sam would consider a glow up, and then they're gonna get married?
I don't think they will.
You don't think?
No, because he's so fat phobic. He's like, once a fat, always a fat. I hate even saying I keep wanting to go into Sam mode, and I'm like, I can't even bring myself to say the joke.
I know. The three of us were talking about 3rd Nephi in the Book of Mormon. After his resurrection, Jesus visited the people in North or South America. Leave it open. We don't want to say anything because we know that archaeology is catching up to us in a big way. After a few hours, he said he had to go visit others, but he saw how sorry they were to have him leave, and his heart went out to them. He asked if they had any sick or lame or blind or lepers, and they brought them to him, and one by one he healed them. Later the children were brought to him, and with them all about he knelt down and prayed. And then he locked them all in a hot car in the middle of summer. It says that nobody can conceive of the joy they felt to hear Jesus pray for them.
Yeah, he has done 1,000% more effort into this pseudo relationship than in his own child.
Battery is dying. Then he stood up and took each child individually, one by one, and blessed them and prayed to Father in heaven for each one. We were all quiet as we thought about that. Finally, Shirley said, I wish I'd been there. Do you think he loved any of them more than he loves you? He loves me too, doesn't he? She asked. If you'd been the only one to benefit by it, he still would have come to earth and suffered and been crucified. If only for you, he would have done it all. It's a bit presumptuous. Has Jesus ever said that? How do we know? Where does it say that? John asked, always ready for a debate. I don't know. It's just a feeling I have, I admitted.
Feelings. Great way to gauge truth.
Who among us was loved by our parents in the ways that we needed? We have to invent this imaginary, perfect, heavenly parent. It's just the fun...
Parent/lover. I think that's where she's going to channel all her yearnings.
Isn't it just the fundamental childhood wound, though? Just always being, always being frustrated that you never were loved in the way you needed. So you have to imagine that there is this magical thing that is capable of giving you the love that you need.
Yes, that's it.
The church is his church, and when we remember him, then miracles happen. Mormons are professionals in doing things because somebody is going to make a report about it. We all want to look good for the report, but the Savior is the real reason we should try to help each other. And that's why we should live the commandments, because if we don't, we'll disappoint the Savior.
We'll have a bad report.
I don't want to do that. I don't either, Shirley said. I understood. We finished the chapter, then headed out for a salad.
It's just so funny how Mormons conceptualize Jesus, the man possessed of perfect empathy, having experienced literally every pain and sorrow that a person can imagine, and that person is going to be disappointed in you. Doesn't always,
For
like,
craving
walking
love.
walking in someone's shoes, you're like, oh shit, I'm not going to judge them. You can't disappoint me. Like, I'm just impressed you're showing up. Like, you're great. Like, that's what that experience does for you. And they're like, Jesus' experience of empathy made him a complete asshole where he cannot stand to be in anyone's presence for the most minuscule of sins or whatever.
Yeah.
Absurd.
Sam, I love the Book of Mormon. Why do we become so fascinated with frog stories when there's so much in the scriptures? When we quit focusing on the Savior, we're left with frogs in buckets, and we think it's the gospel, but it isn't. Didn't you say in a last book you clarified that when you learned more about Jesus and got closer to Jesus, you felt the need to clarify that it didn't make you less active in the church or less into the prophets and apostles?
I forgot about that. Now less into frogs. What next?
Well, I feel terrific now, she said as we pulled in front of the restaurant. John was, of course, driving. Me too, I said. But in a way, nothing's really happened. I'm still in the same boat. I may never get married. That's true. So the Saviour can't make everything right, can he? No, but he can help us get through whatever happens. Well, I'm not going to stay single, John added out of the blue.
So we shouldn't really call him the Savior. We should call him the Helper.
Well, what do you think?
God, that was maybe the worst one yet.
It's like it was Native Americans' last book,
Oof, yeah.
and now it's Fat People this book.
Oh.
Oh, Jack. Also, they're like, that's why we help you so much is because we love the Savior. And it's like, okay, but like your home teaching companion is just straight up insulting her over and over again and telling her she's worthless. Your method involved telling her she was worthless. I hate it, but we gotta get ready for a live stream, so we have to sign off.
Yeah, wow.
Because I have to eat this snack before we start.
Same.
Same. Okay.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Please sound off in the comments. I would love to read someone else articulate the frustration I feel with this chapter in a new, fresh way.
Okay, love you. Thanks for
Have a good
supporting this
one.
channel.
Bye.